Yeah, but time doesn't exist though, because it's not like there's just some material shit floating around in space somewhere and no one's alive, and then this material stuff just so happens to settle in the right configuration, and oh, this is the recipe for awareness. Here it is in linear time, and then everything will die, and then that will be it. Then it will never happen again. It's like the most insane, game-changing paradigm shift or mind blow. The fact that the fact that consciousness just appeared. Here you are. You just woke up. You didn't really ask for it seems. And the fact that that can happen at all, that's it. That's all you need to know. Is no matter what the fuck you think, in the emptiness of the emptiness, vastness, somehow colours and sounds emerged. And what can happen once can happen again. There's no time. Time doesn't exist. Time is... Oh, here everyone is. Let's go. What about then in a dream, yeah? All of that is just pure imagination, right? So when I'm in a dream, yeah, and I'm stood there with you and Potch and everyone at work, yeah, and I'm imagining all this shit, and there's a whole landscape and everything's going down, then what about that? Because the substance of that is pure imagination. It's not that we're going, oh, we want more, like it needs to be more fluffy than that, and then you're coming out, oh, we just listen to the facts, just the science. It's not that. It's not we want more. We don't want to be fluffy. We don't want to be. It's just there's we want truth still. We don't want to try. We don't want to believe in. But it's like there are actual loopholes in his logic and shit. Like, oh, we're just and you got to take those into account. Like, you don't actually know. We want, like, I don't know the 100% truth, but we cannot be certain that it's just some external world physical shit. You can't be certain of that, because I know that there's definitely other possibilities that we can't know that it's definitely not those. That's the thing. So at least you got to be open-minded to the fact that it could be more than that. Yeah, but you can be certain of some things. Like, you can be certain of I am. You can. That's like the one thing you can be certain of, that consciousness is, and things like this. But the things that you aren't certain of, you have to be willing to explore those loopholes. I'm not saying I am certain of anything, but I'm saying you can't be certain, yeah, that you didn't create all of this in God mode and then deceived yourself and made you forget. And like children who dare each other, how far out could you go? Where you really do think, oh, I'm just poor old me, I'm just poor old Gavin on this fucking rock, And then obviously the reason you do that is so that you can experience different things through self-deception, because you actually fool yourself into believing that you're Gavin, but you're not. So without self-deception, you wouldn't be able to fool yourself into believing all sorts of different dreams, to explore the infinityness. But yeah, science don't actually tell you fuck all, though. That's the thing. It don't tell you nothing. And there's that, the way I cannot listen to some cunt just tell me that it's just fucking dust with some water. It's just that here I am, and it's just some meaningless fluke. Like, it's so personal that can't be. How the fuck can you go through all of this trials and tribulations, all these personal fucking ups and downs, yeah, and then, because science don't tell you the meaning of nothing, they just tell you how the physical world is. Like, it just measures the physical world. But yeah, we could go on forever. You should come on the podcast, Gavin. Come on the OXSN podcast, and we'll have a material rationalist gets indoctrinated, and he's not God. So, but yeah, an analogy I come up with the other day is that, like, you could never enjoy a dinner if you weren't hungry or starving for it. So the reason why, potentially, you know, here's some wishful thinking for you. Here's how I cope with with the questions I can't answer. Oh, who knows? Here we go. So here's the ultimate cope. Is the reason why everything's shit right now is because you need contrast, like the yin and the yang. Because you couldn't enjoy dinner if you was never hungry. So that's the ultimate cope. Is the reason why everything's shit is because it's like when you're freezing cold, you appreciate the warm. Because when you was God, you was just infinite singularities. You had everything. You was completely one and not divided. Infinite consciousness, yeah. And then, obviously, to have a bit of an adventure, like a movie or a song or whatever, you divided everything and fooled yourself and deceived. Because if God was all powerful, does God have the power to deceive himself into thinking that he ain't God? Well, if not, then he's not all powerful and he's not God. So that's what you done anyway. You deceived yourself, and you're lost. You grow up from ignorance, and then through time, everything will get more and more interconnected, and eventually you'll realise that inner and outer space are exactly the same. When you start hearing voices speaking inside of your brain, and you might start to feel just a bit like you're going insane. And maybe you are, because inner and outer space are exactly the same. So yeah, you had to deprive yourself of things so that you can get them and then actually appreciate them, because otherwise, as you've probably been aware, humans just take everything for granted until it gets taken away. So that's that. And then yeah, so the reason I say that is just because we can't be certain that this is not the case. So obviously you're in the scientific paradigm or whatever, but how do we, so what the main point is that we cannot be certain of that, science being the case, the way that you say it. You say, well, we can't be certain of anything. Maybe not, except a few things. But even if we can't be certain of everything, that's not the point. It's that it has to be open-ended or optimistic. That we can't, because we can't be certain of anything. That means we can't be certain of your science paradigm. So take this. It's from Alan Watts. Is what if you could dream any dream you wanted to dream? Oh, you'd have love affairs and you'd have loads of amazing food and shit like this, right? And then, well, you get bored of that, so you'd want to introduce a bit of challenge. So you'd add some nuance and some yin and yang, bad versus good, you know, so you can have all the Marvel movies, etc. You know, you could dream them up with a bit of fucking turbulence, you know, so it's a bit interesting. So it's not just oneness, and it's not heaven on earth, because you get bored of heaven on earth. I've been there on some psychedelic trips. Eventually you're like, fuck this, let me go back to pretending that everything wasn't perfect. So yeah, you get bored of dreaming everything you want, because if you get everything you want the moment you get it, then what's the fucking point, really? And eventually you'll realise that. So yeah, then you go through and you set some limitations, yeah, so you can save fucking princesses from dragons and shit, yeah. And then eventually you're like, well, fuck me, if I'm just God, then, well, as long as I wake up eventually, I may as well forget that I'm dreaming. And that, how do we not know? And you can't deny it. You cannot deny that you might have just forgot that you was dreaming, and you done it because to entertain yourself, you know, so you can really believe that you're gabbing. But yeah, there's that.